Hello everybody, it's Tommy and welcome to a speed build for the Disney save. Today, you guys, we are finally doing Beast's Castle from Beauty and the Beast. This is going on the gigantic 64 by 64 in Henford-on-Bagley. It is the thing that I was so excited to finally have a place for in the save file as soon as we saw this world, and I felt like this lot was just going to be perfect for it. It has like this beautiful river around it, and there's a bridge and everything that kind of leads up to it, and we definitely needed the space and like a full 64 by 64 for a castle like this. Originally, the plan was to put this castle in Windenburg, and when we got Henford-on-Bagley, I was just ecstatic that we were going to be able to move all of the Beauty and the Beast builds into this world and then have the castle as well and just have everything feel very cohesive. So this feels like it was meant to be. It feels like a gift from the Sims team, like somebody's watching. Someone was like, I got you, girl. Let me give you what you need. And that's a cottage world where we have this giant lot right in the center so that you can build your perfect Beauty and the Beast castle. And boy, was this a struggle. Like, I knew this castle would be tough, but the layering, it made it so hard. I have built probably 3 or 4 versions of the basic outside structure and trying to figure out, do I want to do this on a hill? Do I want to do this on a foundation? How do I get all of these levels to look different and higher and make it look like it has like all these things going on that are not really possible according to the game mechanics? I wasn't willing to compromise on this one. And technically, I don't even know how to describe this really. I'm going to do my best, but there is technically a feature in this castle that I don't even know how I managed to get it to function, because it doesn't really sit on the same foundation level as the other pieces of the castle, but they're all connected somehow. I literally don't even know how I did it. I had like a weird glitch. It worked in my favor. This almost never happens. We're gonna be happy about it. And I've actually playtested this castle already, and it works. And I'm just like, can you even imagine? It was almost perfectly done. Like, I had to move a couple of chairs here and there to get everything to function, but the basic structure itself and the leveling and the stairs and all of that good stuff wasn't even the issue when it came to testing the build. So I'm really excited to finally put this out. It's actually been done for a month or 2. I built this probably 2 or so months ago, and I was not, like, I was immediately thinking that it was going to come out and you guys were going to see this months ago, but I'm sure a lot of you noticed I did take a pretty big break in videos, and I put a post about this out on my YouTube like post thing, just letting people know like, hey, I'm so sorry I disappeared. I'm going to be coming back now. And I really didn't want to put that post out until I knew for sure that it was going to be true, because even on my Patreon a couple times, I've been keeping up with my Patreon during this entire absence from YouTube. I still was posting over there and still working on the save file and still trying to keep up with that aspect of it. I was posting over there like, hey, I think a video is going to come out next week, and then the video wouldn't come out. And then I would say, hey, I'm working on a backlog of videos. I think I'll have things ready in about a week or 2. And a week or 2 would go by and I didn't have any videos. And I've just been, I don't know, you guys, it's been a tough year and a half for me. It's been a tough year and a half for a lot of people, but I'm probably not going to go too much into an explanation as to like all the things that have happened, but I do want to give at least a brief explanation as to why I suddenly disappeared and why I haven't been as active as when I was a streamer. And I think being a streamer and streaming actually was part of the issue, because a long time ago, at least 6 months or so ago, the end of last year or about midway through last year, I decided that due to a move, I was going to be done with streaming because I didn't think I was going to be able to keep up with it in the combination of my move, and then I was going to Disney a couple months later, and then I was going to London, and then it was Christmas time, so I just knew my schedule didn't allow me to do streaming and YouTube and Patreon and trying to work on the save file and trying to be active in Discord and foster a community. There's only so much of me to go around, and I just knew that something had to give. So I decided it was going to be streaming. But towards the end of streaming, I was more than relieved honestly, to let it go. I felt like it was such a chore for me, and that's not the way that you're meant to feel. Like, it's a hobby. It's something that's kind of just for fun. It's something that I should be excited, and like, it's a way to connect with my community and my people. And it really brought some people to me and to the Save File, and like helped spread the word about some of the stuff that we were working on here. So it was meant to be this really, really positive thing. And I found that I was dreading doing it because I think I was just so mentally taxed and I needed to let something go. So that seemed like the first easiest thing where I could just, maybe instead of building in front of an audience, and I could have like a moment to me and a moment to think about things in my own head and not have to constantly be speaking while I was trying to build something. It's just like very mentally taxing, I guess. And so I let that go for at least the time being. Some of you have asked me if I'm going to be coming back to streaming. It's not a no, it's just I don't have plans to do it as of right now. I would probably like to in the future, and there is times where I genuinely miss it and I think, hey, maybe I can go back to it. But the biggest thing that, like, the biggest difference between when I started the Save File and now is that I don't have the time to do all of the things that I used to do. So if I was to stream and do that, I think I would have to give YouTube up. I don't think I could do all of it, at least not in my current schedule. I now am working full-time. That's something that wasn't the case when I started the Save File. I was a full-time content creator. I had to back off of that a little bit, especially with all of the travel that I've been doing recently. I also used to never travel. I literally never would go anywhere. And now I do travel. I have a couple of trips planned for this year. I'm going back to Disney this year. I'm very, very excited. My boyfriend and I are going to spend 2 entire weeks there, and I am ecstatically planning that trip. I did not have the best first experience when I went to Disney the first time. I can tell you guys that story in another video, but it's just, it was busy. Long story short, it was very busy. It was the beginning of the 50th anniversary. It was so overwhelming, and maybe not enough time there. Like 7 days seems like a lot, but it's kind of not in terms of Disney and like trying to get all the things done that you want to do. But needless to say, I now travel a bit more. I'm going to London again this year, and I just feel like with that, I would pick travel. I would pick travel. I would pick doing my YouTube channel and trying to do it at a consistent rate, give or take, with my little hiatuses that happen here and there, and working full time and trying to balance the current schedule of my life, which is so very different than what I had when I first started. And to be honest, I started this new job and I was working full time again, and I had already been working full time for a while, but I started a brand new job that was very different than anything I had done in the past. And I found myself coming home from work at night, and I was just like, I would rather do anything than film a YouTube video right now. I don't want to do it. It makes me sad. Like, the thought of even like, I would work on the save here and there, but I didn't have the time to sit down for 3 or 4 hours and just like binge out a speed build or crank out a couple of Create-A-Sim videos. I didn't have that time anymore. And when I did have that time, I didn't want to use it to work on the save and to work on YouTube content because I never had that time anymore. So I wanted to do other things. I wanted to watch that movie that I haven't gotten to watch, or catch up on that show, or just like lay in my bed or read a book. And thinking about it, like, time was passing. And it was like a day turned into a week, turned into a month, turned into a few, which doesn't really seem like a lot. Like, it could have been a lot worse. But for me, I've always been the type of content creator that is at least somewhat consistently uploading, even if it means I only put out 2 or 3 videos that one random month when I had a lot of travel and things going on. From the date that I started YouTube, I always have been cranking out content. So I felt like I was just letting everyone down. I felt like everyone was mad at me. I felt like everyone was just going to leave and no one was going to be interested in the save file. Like I was killing my own work and my own efforts by not putting anything out because by the time I came back, nobody would care anymore. And I just couldn't get myself out of that like mental spiral, and it made it worse and worse and worse. And I just felt like I can't post. I don't know what to post. I don't know what to say. I don't know how to explain why I don't have the energy to do this right now. So that's kind of been where I've been at for a few months here. And I'm not going to say it's like completely over because it's really not, to be honest. Some days I'm still going to come home and say, I just can't do it. I don't want to do it. And that's my biggest thing about the save is that I've never been in a place with it where I'm like, I don't want to do this anymore. And I feel like it gets dangerously close where if I start to feel that way, I'm not going to do it. And it's going to just never be completed. And that would be the worst case scenario because so many people really want this and I really want this. And I've already put so many years into this that to see it all just like fall because I'm pushing myself too hard is not the right move. So I don't know what the answer is. I don't know how consistently I'm going to be posting. I don't have a schedule. I'm not like trying to put out 2 videos a week or 3 videos a month. I don't have any of those parameters set for myself. I'm just going to try my best for a little while and see where it goes. And hopefully that is good enough for now. And then maybe in a few more months, I'll feel even better and I'll feel like I can have a schedule and I'll feel like, yeah, I can do that 2 video a week time period. But for now, I just feel like I need to allow myself to have no rules and allow myself to be creative when I want to be creative and stop trying to force it and just exist and do the best that I can. And I hope that that made sense because it feels a little bit like a rant, but that's where I've been. That's why I haven't been posting. I did disappear off of Discord quite a bit. I'm going to try my best to be more active in both of my Discords, my regular one and my Patreon one. I'm just going to try my best. And that's all I can do right now. And Patreon, for whatever reason or another, Patreon feels a little bit more, it's easier for me to just like sit down and type out some thoughts and say, here's kind of where I'm at, here's what we're planning, here's what I think, here's a couple of screenshots, you know, here's what I've been working on. It's quicker, it's simpler, it's a lot easier for me to get some quick thoughts out. So I have been able to maintain that. Again, still not as consistently as I have in the past. I've done like, I do weekly updates on the save file, and for the past like month or so, I haven't been able to do that. I've been doing like every 2-week updates and really, really mentally yelling and screaming at myself that that's what's been happening. But I'm trying to like forgive myself and reset and be excited about the save file again. And I found energy to record and energy to think about plans for the save and werewolves and all the things that are coming up. And I feel like that's a good sign. So I feel like I'm coming out of whatever the funk was, whatever the burnout, whatever I was experiencing. I'm happy to say I think I'm coming out to the other side of it. So all that being said, for the next couple of weeks, there will be very regular content because despite the fact that I was so mentally exhausted and didn't want to work on the save for the amount of time that I've been gone, I've still been working on the save. So I created Castle Dunbroach, which hopefully you guys have already seen, finished off the Brave content. I completely playtested and completed Mount Komorebi. So one of the next videos coming up is going to be a tour video, finally, months later, for a completed and ready to download Mount Komorebi. I'm going to be launching that in the next couple of weeks. So those of you who have been waiting for all of the Frozen builds, everything's already up on the gallery if you want it. Quite a few weeks ago, I already uploaded that stuff to the gallery, but we're going to have the tour video. I know you guys love those. I love those. And I'll be launching that. I'm currently in the process of testing Henford on Bagley. It's going pretty quickly. It's not too bad at all. A lot of the characters were already pretty established and I didn't have to test as many of the Beauty and the Beast builds. So it's moving along. And then the next world, thank you so much for bearing with the rant of my life there. But I'm excited to say that the next world for the Disney Save was chosen by patrons, and it is Sulani. And I'm ecstatic to be moving into something that is just completely different. I thought we were going to go Windenburg. I really thought it was going to win. I ran some polls on Patreon and the winner was Sulani. And I just wasn't expecting that, to be honest. But we're going to do some Peter Pan, Little Mermaid, Moana, Lilo and Stitch, probably other things, Pirates of the Caribbean, Finding Nemo, Atlantis potentially. I don't even know. The world's not planned. I haven't even sat down to think about that too much yet. I just opened up the patron section of my Discord where I allow people to kind of start feeding their ideas to me because I was like, I feel like I'm mentally ready to start thinking about a lot of this stuff. So let's start at least having the conversation while I'm feeling good about it. And we're going to start working on that soon, planning that soon. I just want to get Henford on Bagley finalized and out and ready to download because the mistake I made with Mount Komorebi was waiting and starting the next world and then thinking, oh, I'll go back and finish it. I've realized now I don't do that. It doesn't work well. And then I'm 2 worlds in and they're not completed and they're not ready to download. And then I want to work on the next one. I really just need to finish the world I'm working on, close it out, be done with it, ready to move on to the next one. And it makes updating for future packs and future launches and things for previous work that I've done a lot easier. So my plan is to finish Henford on Bagley before I even touch the sand of Sulani. And then I will start working. I will probably start planning before then, but that a lot of that occurs in my Patreon Discord and on my own time as well. I've decided that with Sulani, I am going to obviously love the input, love the ideas. Most of what people have already recommended to me, definitely going to use. However, I'm going to create the final version of Sulani by myself this time around. I think it's going to be really good for me to do that. And I'm excited to go into the tropical vibes and do something that's way different than Henford on Bagley. And then who knows? The world that almost won was the My Wedding Stories world because it was new at the time when I was doing the polls, and I'm actually kind of surprised that it didn't win, but I think people have really wanted and requested Sulani for so long now that my patrons were finally like, all right, enough's enough, let's do this world. And we're going to be rolling into the end of summer by the time I start doing that, or mid to end of summer, so it's a really, really good time. And then maybe we can do the werewolves world, who knows? I don't even really want to think about that yet, to be honest with you guys. So that's the update of my life, of my save file. I hope you guys understand. I really am truly sorry for disappearing like that. I know so many of you are going to say it's not a big deal, just like take the time that you need. But I really mentally beat myself up for that. And it's equally not a great thing for me to do that because I am very much the type of person that likes to be actively creative and doing things. And like, I even painted for the first time during my little break since for 6 months. I haven't painted anything. And I finally sat down and painted. So I was like craving the creativity, and thank you guys for being very kind. Nobody was mean to me. Nobody said, where are you? Nobody said like, what happened to videos, or like nobody was unkind. People did check in on me and make sure I was okay. And did mention like, hey, I haven't seen a video in a little while, which perfectly reasonable thing to say. But thank you guys for giving me my space and allowing me to do that without anybody being unkind to me. It means a lot. And hopefully, like I said in my post, what's going to come out of this at the end of a few years is a beautiful save file that we can all enjoy together. And it's all kind of worth the back and forth, the pain and the love. Now let's talk about this castle. This castle is technically 3 pieces. One of them is completely unconnected to the other 2. The way it's meant to look from the outside is that it's obviously all one cohesive piece, and it's not. It's 3 separate structures. It was the only way to really make it so that we had the leveling that I think that this castle requires, because if you look at this castle from the front, it just has that classic like castle look where the front of it is very low, and then as you sort of go towards the back, it gets very tall. But we're limited to 4 levels in The Sims 4, and if you move the foundation of one structure high, then the others have to match it or they cannot connect with one another. So that's what I was saying earlier when I said that somehow I managed to connect two pieces of this that are technically on different levels. I did. I don't know how I did it. The game was fighting me on it a little bit when I started doing the roofing and things like that, but it works. It's functional. I'm hoping it stays that way. So the two main structures of the castle, where we have like Beast's room, the grand ballroom, the major like fireplace / dining room that you see, at least the one that like her and Beast sit in alone, are all one structure. The west wing is also located in this main structure that we're decorating. That'll be at the end of the video. And the other side structure is the library, which is still technically attached to this, but at a different height. And then the third structure is the tower where all of the castle staff's bedrooms are. So conveniently, right before I started building this castle, my boyfriend bought me the most beautiful pins that were made by Disney, and they're actually like pretty large. Most of them were about the size of like the palm of your hand, and they were from the Disney Castle collection that they've been doing recently. So Disney put out these really gorgeous like castle statues that I didn't jump on when they came out, and what a mistake that was, because now they go for like $1,000 each, and I'm gonna cry for a million years because I don't have them, and like they scream I need. So my error. However, in their absence, my boyfriend, for our 1-year anniversary, did the next best thing that he could have done, and he went and got me the pins from that collection, and each one of the castles opens and you can see the inside, and it has all of the rooms laid out for, I guess, how Disney would canonly say that it's laid out. And what's cool about that is some of those towers and bits and windows, and you're like, well, what is that? Where could that go? What does that lead to? This at least kind of lays out what they believe that the castle would be structured like. Now, do I think they're attempting to fit like screenshots from some of the movies into a space that doesn't make sense? Yes, I've talked about that 1,000 times. But it's still helpful to have something to say like, oh, that tower is supposed to be Belle's library? Okay, and then I can kind of use that as reference. So he bought me the collection. It's gorgeous. It comes in like this big glass case that you can hang on the wall with a door that you can pull up, and it's all of the Disney castles, like literally all of them, with the exception of Eric's. But I think it's in its place. We have Triton's castle, so you give and you take. But other than that, literally all of them. And the only one he did not get for me was Belle's castle, because it was sold out on his Shop Disney, because he lives in the UK. So his Shop Disney sometimes has different things than what we have here. And I was fortunate enough that we had it in the US, so I picked it up to finish out the collection. And I literally had it sitting in front of me while I was building this castle as reference. So one of the things I learned from that pin is that there's technically 2 grand entrances to this castle. There's the one that you probably know and love, where you walk straight in and it has like the spiraling staircases that hug the walls with the red carpet, the one that we are trying to recreate in this space. And it is technically located on the side of the castle. The entrance to this one is the side of the castle. The other grand entrance, which you might not remember as well, but it has like purpley and blue drapes, is actually the front door of the castle. So that's what I was getting out of that, at least. Somebody who's like a Beauty and the Beast expert is like screaming right now. They're like, no, that's absolutely incorrect. According to this pin, and according to what I could find, that was the case, which fit perfectly into my design of this downstairs area, because it meant that I could do the grand entryway, the ballroom, that dining room where Beast and Belle eat, that's like all red when they're trying to eat kind of by themselves. So I would say like the royal dining space is all off of that main entryway. And then the other grand entryway, I decided I was going to opt for that to be where I'm putting all of the castle staff. So that's going to be over on like the other side of the castle. We'll go to it later. I have to say, as you can imagine with the length that this video already is, we are jumping around a ton for the decorating of this castle. I'm going to do a tour video. You guys don't even have to ask for that one. I'm going to do it. I'm literally hoping I can film it right after this voiceover, because basically I cut everything except for Belle and Beast's room, the West Wing, the Grand Ballroom, and maybe some of the bedroom spaces. I don't even remember. So everything else and a lot of the exterior and stuff completely cut. So I am going to do a tour video 100%. Look out for that. It should be coming out either later this same week that this video is coming out or the following Tuesday or so. But I feel like it's so necessary. Like there's going to be so many details and things and little tributes to the movie that don't quite make it into this video. What we're currently decorating is Beast and Belle's room. So in their movie, they obviously don't share a room. They have 2 separate bedrooms. And I went back and forth about what I was going to do for this because I wanted the darker aesthetic of like the West Wing, and like Beast's bedroom has this like darker glow to it that I felt like was important. But if Belle's going to live in here with him, she wouldn't want that necessarily. So I feel like she would liven it up a little bit. So what their bedroom is kind of a combination of the two. So it's not like extremely accurate. It's first and foremost based on Beast's room, but there's some elements and some things in here that help like brighten it up that I feel like make it more like both of their space. And it's the only room in the entire castle that uses like these beautiful purples, which was really prevalent in a lot of like Beast space. So I love it. I think it's so moody. It's so royal and elegant. And technically, it's inaccurate where it's placed because the ballroom, as a lot of you know, has this amazing like cathedral glass dome top over it. But because of the game giving me a ton of issues while building this, it made no sense for me to clear out this floor to add it into the ballroom. It wasn't going to leave me a lot of space, unfortunately, to do like a really massive royal bedroom for our prince and princess here. So I just decided it's kind of one of those things where I felt like I had to make the change to make it more playable for the game. And I'm really, really happy that I did. I think their bedroom is absolutely stunning and it kind of screams both of them. And it's different than the rest of the household. It's funny, I posted a shot of this on Patreon probably a month or so ago. And one of my patrons was like, I feel like it's really yellow in here. And it's because like I have these like yellow candelabras all over the place and freestanding candles and things like that all over the place, giving this glow. But this is the only room that doesn't have that because there's such a moody purple and blue tone in here that I really, really enjoy. And it's going to be very similar to the West Wing at the end of the video. One thing I want to say that I really didn't use very much reference for in this build that I thought I was going to is the live action movie. I'm actually kind of a big fan of the live action Beauty and the Beast. I know that people do not like it. However, this is one exception for me. I sort of do like it. And I thought I was going to use it a ton when I was creating this castle, and then I just found that it was almost so different from the version that they show in the animated that like you can't get away with mixing the two. It has to be one or the other, unfortunately. And this is the more iconic one. This is the one that we're sticking with for the main structure. So it has to stay that way. Like it has to be all based off of one consistent thing when the two themes are going to be so drastically different from one another. And you guys can kind of see in the background here and there as we like zoom in and out of rooms, you'll see some of the other spaces that we have not gotten to include. That main central entryway is going to have, let me see if I can just list this off the top of my head. It has a ballroom, the main kitchen, or like I guess the royal kitchen. And there, off of that kitchen is Mrs. Potts' room and Chip's room. It's the only room that isn't included in the other tower where all of the other castle staff are going to stay. There's also a dining space down there. And then if you go up one floor, you have Beast's room, you have a grand or royal bathroom. And if you go up another floor, there is a private study, living room. I don't like using living room in terms of castles because I feel like it makes no sense. Basically like the room with the fireplace and the books and things like that based off of the movie. That'll be included in the tour video. It's not going to be in the speed build video today. Something we absolutely had to include though, how could I even get away with not including the footage from doing Belle's library? And there's some elements in here immediately that I was like, I'm not compromising on this. I want the blue bookcases. I want the double height. I want these to go floor to ceiling, even if it covers the windows. I don't care. I want all of this. I think it's so important to this build to have it look accurate, but there are things we were never going to have. Like there's 2 spiral staircases in this library that are kind of like off to each side of the room. And we can't have it, unfortunately. I wasn't even able to make the stairs kind of sit in the room and do like some kind of a spiral on them. They just take up so much space. It's not even worth considering. So I felt like it's going to be okay. We got the stairs in here at least so that we can have multiple floors to this library. I cut out the upstairs floor above it and put a railing on it so that you can look down and you really get that grand feel of like how massive this library is. Probably the biggest one I've ever built for the save file. And then as you go up, there's less and less to do. Like there's multiple rooms in this tower, but there isn't as many like reasons for it. The top floor is actually a study. And right before that, there's a little landing with like a gorgeous window. And I felt like it was a really beautiful place to paint. So I guess you could call this like the arts center of the castle, because this structure is almost entirely by itself. It is technically connected to the other structure that we were building in earlier, but it is not connected via stairs, if that makes sense. One thing that I was really struggling with in this build actually was paintings, because we have maybe like a handful, 5 or 6 old-timey paintings that I felt like would fit into a space like this in his castle. And his castle is so decorative and like drapery and statues and art and things are around. And you can tell that the Beast has an appreciation for those things, so you want those kind of knickknacks to be kind of like around and you want the art to be present, but I don't want to repeat the same painting 1,000 times all over various parts of the castle. I wanted it to be different and special, and finding different pieces that would fit each area and have them be different, I ran out like almost immediately. We only maybe have like 5 or 6 paintings, and when you're doing a castle, it's not enough. I really should have stolen some from the gallery, actually, now that I think about it. Maybe I still can. Maybe I can do some not CC, but definitely CC paintings the way that I used to do. Although I'm finding that there is a glitch with that. In testing some of my save file, I'm having some issues with the no CC paintings. So that's kind of a bummer if that's the case. I'm hoping it's not one of those things where like they're trying to update it out of the game, because it used to be something you could do in the game easily. And then they updated it out, and then people found a workaround for it. And I'm just kind of hoping that that is not being worked around additionally to try to remove it again, because I don't really see why it's necessary. Like, I really, really love the customization option when you can really create like a painting and use a reference that's like from a Disney movie and like have them actually paint something that's really relevant to the movie and then use it in a build and not have it pop up on the gallery as custom content. It's just amazing. And it's going to take away from some of the builds that I've done so far, to be honest, if I have to figure out to remove those. Like, imagine the princess karaoke without the princess portraits. Absolutely not. That would be devastating. Now, I think to close out today's video, the last portion, and again, I know I skipped so much, like I didn't even show you guys the tower with all of the castle staff rooms, so the tour video will be coming, but I had to cut it down somewhere. And of course, we couldn't cut out the West Wing, which is actually located at the very top of this tower in the back of the main castle, right off of the garden. The garden's also not included in this video, but you can kind of see the beginnings of it in the back there. And it has its own balcony. We had to do the rows. And I also wanted it to be kind of hard to get to in a way. And it also remains eternally like the first version of this castle would have been, with lots of dirt and cobwebs and scrapes on the wall and dinginess and like bad lighting and things like that. The very first version of this castle that you would have seen in the movie, that's the vibe in here. And man, was this rose a struggle. And like, I've been thinking about this since the save file was a thing in my brain. Like, how am I going to do this rose when I do the Disney save? Because of course you have to have it. I don't even care that canonly in my save file, it's sort of as if it's the end of Belle's story, or it's after the events of the story because of the condition of the castle. I knew that this was of course going to be included. It doesn't really matter to me. This is something that has to be here for gameplay purposes, for storytelling, like whatever. It's iconic. But I could never figure out how I was going to get this done, because we don't have a dome that's just like empty so that you could put anything in. And I tried for hours to figure out, what am I going to use as a dome? And I ended up using something that technically is not empty, and technically if you look at it really, really closely, but we're not going to, everybody, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to zoom out. We are not going to get too close to this thing, because if we do, you're going to see that there's actually like kind of a skull right in the middle of this dome. And I don't want to hear it from literally a single person because I did this for hours. And if anybody has a better object, please tell me. I might even go into Tulle later because like I never do Tulle immediately and try to find maybe a glass cup or something and flip it upside down and use that instead. But in all honesty, I don't think it really looks that bad. I hit it with some other plants. You guys will see in a second here. And I think it could have been worse, to say the least. And then what I also did is I put those lava lamps from Strangerville that I love inside of the glass so that I could have that glow, because the rose itself glows like this purpley pinky hue at all times, and I felt like we had to have that as well. So it's basically just a layering of a couple of objects that don't really make any sense, but I feel like from a distance it looks really good. And I'm pretty satisfied with it, all things considered. Again, if anyone has a better recommendation, I would love it for the dome, but can we please just get an empty dome first? That would be great. Did I actually use the skull? I can't remember if I used that or if I used this other object because I like didn't want the skull floating in the middle there. I probably didn't, now that I'm looking at it. Okay, so there's 2 pieces of parchment in there if you look really close, but we're not gonna. We're gonna admire the fact that I managed to get something that like slightly resembles what we need here in this space, and I'm happy with it. And that is pretty much going to be the end of today's video. If you would like to support the Disney Save on Patreon, it's going to be linked in my description box down below. You get special perks, early access, lots of things you can help with planning the save file. Check that out, again, linked in my description box below. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you guys so much for giving me such a positive space to come back to and being so kind to me in all of my endeavors regarding this save file, and I really do appreciate each and every one of you. Stay tuned for the tour video of Mount Komorebi. Stay tuned for the tour of this castle and more, I think, Henford on Bagley stuff to come. We got one more tour video and then maybe a tour of this world as soon as I'm finished up with it. And I will speak to you all in the next one. Bye, everybody.